Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is going to be one of my favorite cases. I had forgotten about the Robyn Gardner case. It's been a long time. I think it's 2011. I'm going to read the story in a minute. But I remember back when it happened, when she went missing in Aruba while she was vacationing there with this guy, Gary Giordano. Giordano. I can't pronounce his name. Giordano. What the heck is wrong with me? Let me pronounce this guy's name right. For God's sakes, I've just lost the ability to pronounce his name. Giordano. Robyn Gardner and Gary Giordano. All right. It's been a stressful day. I woke up to hammering, and it was continuing on. I had to postpone this show. And then we just had our Verizon has just replaced all of our equipment, so we'd have a better internet. And just before the show, the internet went down. So I'm like, I'm just going to cross fingers. All right. So if I disappear, all of my folks in the chat room, I will send you a message to come back in 15 minutes and I'll reboot. But hopefully the show will go on and there won't be any more catastrophes. But I'm not so sure. I can't seem to speak straight. Robyn Gardner and Gary Giordano. I don't know why I don't like his name. I don't like him. So I'm just going to call him Gary. Scary Gary. Okay. And by the way, if I speak ill of this guy through most of the show, it's because he deserves it. Okay, let me welcome people in the chat room. Oh my God. Kelly's here, Ed Deeney's here, Florence is here, Walty Matilda is here. Let's see, Gretchen's here, Molly's here, Sky Ricky is here, Texas Redhead is here, Linda's here, and let's see, who have I missed? I might have missed somebody, and I do apologize, and welcome if you're coming in now. If you'd like to be in the chat room, all right, if you'd like to be in the chat room, please do join Patreon. It's $5 a month. There are 8 live shows, 4 case shows. That's one every week, plus a hangout every week as well. Plus we have our community chats. So please do join, help support this educational channel. But you're not required to do that. You can just, hey, like the video, subscribe to the channel. All of my videos are open to the public, okay? And you can always support the channel other ways, buying books and such things like that. All right. All of that's below in the description. All right. Oh, well, oh, that's it. That's interesting. A nice clear picture for a change. Okay. Well, do let me know. I seem to see lags, and this hasn't happened in recent days. So I'm not sure the system's working. So if you see me lagging, could be me, but it could be the internet. So it's been, it's no matter what you do, if you're doing a live show, you're always going to have to deal with the fact that technology will stab you in the back, especially Verizon. All right. So let's go to this case. Let me show you where I got my information from. And I want to tell you this right up front. The information on this case sucks. All right. It sucks because most of the stuff is just written up tabloid fashion, and there's not a lot of it, which surprises me. And a lot of it's gossipy. And I don't know whether the police in Aruba really kept their mouths, really tight. So there's not that much information, but it's hard to get details. So I will tell you where I don't have the details, but I will tell you, I think I know what happened to Robyn Gardner in Aruba. And I can say that right up front. Do I think he's guilty? The evidence would support that, but I don't think the way it went down is the way people think it went down. So I will get to the whole analysis, but let me tell you where I got some of my information from. And it's kind of an amusing bunch of stuff, actually. One is this, Dr. Phil. He went on Dr. Phil along with Robyn Gardner's sister, and anybody who knows me knows I do not particularly like Dr. Phil. I won't go back on the show ever again. And but I have to admit, this wasn't a bad show. And the fact this guy would go on the show, he's very arrogant. He's on there just, I'm going to prove I'm innocent. And the sister's just spitting at him pretty much the whole time. And Dr. Phil has some pretty funny little questions along the way, which I'll share with you. And then this is something else. This is a show called You, the Jury. And it only lasted 2 shows. It didn't do well, apparently. And what happened was the sister was on it again, and she was being represented by Takapina, I think that's his name, famous attorney. And guess who was representing this buzzard? Yeah, Jose Baez, of course. And so he shows up on Dr. Phil, and he also shows up on the You, the Jury show. So that's his his attorney. So that makes him look really innocent. All right. So, and you wonder again, why did he show up on You, the Jury? So what they do on this show, which is kind of silly, but interesting, this is a civil case. It's claimed to be, and in a very short period of time, which is 45 minutes, there's 20 minutes that each one of the attorneys presents the case and it sort of attacks the other case, and then the audience votes. Is he guilty or is he not guilty? And this is preponderance of the evidence, not the same as a criminal case. So just more likely than less likely. And so it was, some of the questions were so ridiculous, and they really didn't ask the right question, which I found fascinating. And again, why is he doing this show? And they found him, the audience found him guilty. So, so far, nobody's liked this guy, and he's not talked his way out of anything particularly. He's just such a creepo. And but some of the things they make claims about him are really stupid. Like, for example, Jose Baez wanting to say this guy's a decent guy. He started attacking the sister by saying she didn't care about Robyn, that when Robyn went missing on the island, she didn't even go down there. Her mother went, but she didn't bother to go down. And she just wanted to get the travel insurance money. And that she hadn't visited Robyn in a long time. And they didn't really have a good relationship. And the sister had all kinds of problems, with money and finances and all kinds of stuff. He just trashed the sister. But you know what? The sister wasn't on Aruba with either one of them. So I don't care what you think of the sister. I don't care if she's the best sister or the worst sister. Meaningless, absolute meaningless. And I thought that was just a bizarre thing to do, to attack the sister when it had no bearing on the case whatsoever. Okay. But then on the other hand, the attorney representing the sister, he asked a lot of stupid questions and came to a lot of stupid conclusions. And I'm going to go into that as we discuss what happened in Aruba. And there's one other place I want to mention where I wanted to get my information from. And this would be, where'd it go? Oh, have I lost things already? No, not one of these days. Oh man, hold on one second. He wrote a book, and I wanted to show you. Oh, there it is. No, that's not it. I wanted to show you the picture of the book he wrote, which I managed to misplace. Okay, he wrote a book, and it's 500 pages, and I wanted to buy it on Amazon, but it's not available. And he keeps referring to this book, that if you just read my book, you would learn so much about this case, and you would see all the evidence that I present, even the FBI evidence. You would know I was innocent. Well, his book isn't available. It's not available in paperback. It's not available as a download. I went to eBay. I couldn't find it there. I went to use books online. Couldn't find it anywhere. So if you think your book's that great, at least you can make it digital, dude. And we could read all of your words and find out how innocent you really are. All right. So now, what happened? Well, let me just give you the basics of what happened. And there is no Wikipedia page for me to use like usual, but I want to read to you just the basics from people.com. Oh, thrills. Okay. So I have to take off my glasses. They're fogging up again because of the heat in here. Okay. Robyn Gardner was supposed to be in Orlando with her parents. At least that's what she told her boyfriend, Richard Forrester. And one of the things I'm going to point out in the beginning is sort of the characters of the people involved. And I know there's always these people who like to say, oh, don't trash the victim. But there are some points to this which are sort of important. So anyway, this is Robyn Gardner, and this is her boyfriend. Now, when you read information, you're going to get confused over, like I did, over how long was she really with this guy? How serious was she with him? I heard a year, I heard 2 years. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But supposedly they were together. All right. But she told her boyfriend she was going to Orlando with her parents. Then she told him that she had actually gone to Aruba on a surprise family trip. So she's lying. And you have to ask, why is she lying to her boyfriend? In fact, the 35-year-old, beautiful, blonde Maryland woman with a radiant smile had traveled to the Caribbean with a man named Gary. I'm going to get his name right this time. Gary Giordano. I'm just anti his last name, Giordano. And I think it's confusing me with the chocolate. The chocolate. What's the name of the chocolate? Somebody tell me. I think that's what's stuck in my head, and I can't get rid of it, and so I can't pronounce his name correctly. What is the name of the chocolate? I personally don't like that chocolate, but a lot of people think it's a really good chocolate. Somebody tell me. It starts with G. I know it does. But somebody tell me. Oh, you actually saw that. Cringy. Watch. It's a mock trial. Yes, it's a mock trial. It's not a real trial. It's a mock trial. And thank you, Giardelli. Giardelli. I swear to God, I'm confusing with Giardelli. It's just like stuck in my head all incorrectly. And I don't like their chocolate. I think it tastes weird. Anyway, so well, yes and no. So let's go to what's happening here in this situation. And so let me just show you. Okay, let me read a little more. In fact, the 35-year-old beautiful blonde Maryland girl had gone to the Caribbean with a man named Gary Giordano, a 50-year-old businessman, also from Maryland, with a disturbing past. Boy, does he have a disturbing past, let me tell you. And I have to admit, Dr. Phil did make me laugh, because apparently, let me show you a couple things. Oh, oops, I want to show you this first. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Is it here? He got harassment charges, stalking charges, assault in the second degree. He got this is another woman, said she had said that Giordano had attacked her, choked and slapped her. Another woman had a restraining order. This is the ex-wife. She feared he was going to physically harm her, and there was domestic violence. And it was funny because apparently like 4 women who had filed charges against him. And he said every one of them was lying, and they actually attacked him. And, Gary, when you have to claim that all the women are attacking you, you got to wonder, how truthful are you as a human being? But anyway, Dr. Phil, who I can't stand, did say something I think was pretty amusing. He goes, well, Gary, are there any women who haven't accused you of filed any kinds of complaints against you? Are there any out there? And he didn't answer, but I thought that was kind of funny. So anyway, he meets her, and she's with this guy, but she supposedly just lost her job, and the claim was that she was going off to Aruba with him to clear her head and just feel good for a week or whatever. Okay. She met him. Well, I've heard 3 different stories about where she met him. Adult Friend Finder, Match.com, and another one, a swinger site. And so I'm going to say, if she is supposed to be with this guy, but she's on the internet talking to other men, something else is going on. And so there were more racy kind of things out there. So the question has been, and people and the family and her boyfriend absolutely say no, that she wasn't paid to go to Aruba. He claims he didn't pay her to go to Aruba. As a matter of fact, he claims he got the hotels free for some, one of those things where you've been there a lot, so you get this for these free days. And she paid for her own ticket. I'm going to say that's a lie. This woman's just lost her job. And Mr. Rich Businessman is going to have her pay for her own ticket. Well, maybe she booked it herself. I'm sure he handed the money over, or he was going to hand the money over. One of those two things. But why would she go with this man who there's apparently also they found his camera and had a whole bunch of pictures they said were past porn. I don't know what that means with the two of them. So let me say this. There's no way she didn't go to Aruba knowing that he wanted more than just to be a nice friend. That's just ridiculous. She went with him and there was going to be sex involved. That's simply a fact, in my opinion. Okay, I can't approve it. I'm just saying. There's no way a man with that much money is just doing her a favor. Okay. And she's lying to her boyfriend. So there's a bit of a problem here. Now, what does that mean? The point isn't to disparage her. The point is to say what kind of character this guy is, because he takes women to Aruba, and he tried to take another woman and her like 18-year-old daughter, say, for modeling, because he was going to, he was into the modeling business. And he said, oh, well, she's not going to be another Natalee Holloway. Ew, what a creepy thing to say. Like, she's safe with me. I'm not going to kill her like you're in Vandersloot, But and then a year later, by the way, a year later after this happened, he went back to Aruba. Prime suspect in disappearance of girlfriend in Aruba arrested after having sex in a parking garage in broad daylight. He claims they weren't having sex, whoever this woman was and him, that they were just changing their clothes to go to the beach. I mean, this guy has the worst stories ever. But anyway, this guy takes women places to have sex with them. That's what he's into. And she did not know him very well. Okay. I think she went to earn money. That's the only conclusion I can come up with. Did she get a free vacation to Aruba? Maybe she liked that too. Maybe she did want to just get away, but he's paying for all of this. Okay. And something else is being exchanged, but she did not know him. Okay. There was supposedly another time where she said she had talked to him in kind of a scary. So women, dangerous stuff, going off to any place with a person you do not know. And especially if you're going there and being paid for it one way or the other, it's not necessarily the safest thing to do. However, having said that, I will say this, as he would point out, he's taken a lot of women on vacations and they all come back alive. Okay. So he's not killing every woman he takes on vacation. All right. And you would not think, she would not think, if she's providing him with whatever he's enjoying, things should be pretty good, right? All right. So let me read a little bit more about what happened. So she goes to the island and, okay, I got to find my stuff now here. All right. So she goes to, let's see. Oh, by the way, this is what he said about her to another woman. Robyn, I see her less and less, which is interesting because this was supposedly she'd never been around him, but see her less and less means she was hanging around him, supposedly, according to him. So was she having dates with him? I don't know. I really have zero interest in her now as a playmate. And I never have another feeling for her as a girlfriend. And then he says, she is a blank in the head in every way. I will be glad to tell you the details in person. She was just a blank and nothing else. And I'm going to say the blank is WHORE. All right, that's my guess. Now, he says he's only said this to this other girlfriend because she was jealous of Robyn. But you see, this is the kind of creepy, crummy human being he was. He's a disgusting human being. And I have no problem saying that. I mean, it's my opinion, and I think I'm right. He is a scuzzbag, okay? Now, he seems to be more of an adult. I always tell you this. Always a guy that just tries to be nice, and I think he cared about her and really liked her. She sends him an email from Aruba saying, I love you, and I'll explain everything when I get back. The police think that might have set him off and made him violent. Okay, but there's other things at play here. All right, let me explain some of them to you. All right, now, by the way, the boyfriend thinks, exclusive interview with the National Enquirer, boyfriend fears Robyn Gardner's sold as sex slave. Absolutely not. Come on now, stop doing this. Natalee Holloway, Robyn Gardner were not being sold as sex slaves. Because right here, if she went with him already in exchange for something, she's already kind of willing. There are enough blonde, willing girls. You don't need to kidnap them. And when you're in South America and you're talking about girls who are of adult age, people say, oh, everybody thinks everybody in South America is like dark haired. They're not. There's a lot of blondes in South America who work as sex workers. So you don't need to be kidnapping a woman of her age. All right. That's just nonsense. So, and then have a police investigation. And nobody needed to kidnap Natalee Holloway and have a police investigation. It's ridiculous. All right. So now let's go to what happened. They went to Aruba. All right. Let me just show you this is the island in the Caribbean. They stayed at this resort up there on where that dot is. And it looked like that is a nice fancy resort. All right. And they went to the other side of the island. They were there 2 days. And then first day they're having fun. Yay, everybody having a good time. And then that next day, they go to the other end of the island to a location that's called Baby Beach. Now here's where stupid stuff comes in. So one of the claims is that he was clearly trying to do something to her because why didn't they were supposedly going snorkeling, okay? She supposedly died going snorkeling, all right? So I'll get into the whole thing about how that happened. But the claim he made was that they went snorkeling and they were only supposed to be doing it for a few minutes. And then a current took her away and that was it. She was gone. I'll get into the whole explanation of the snorkeling issue. But he also had taken out a policy, a travel policy, which was like $1.5 million. If anything happened to her, well, he was going to be the beneficiary. And this is where he made him look really, really bad. So there's a claim that the signature on it is not hers, that he had signed it for her. And he says, every time I go out on a plane and go with somebody, I always sign these things. I believe it, because you don't want to lose. He said, you don't want to lose your plane flights, your hotels, all the stuff. So you just sign this thing. And then if something happens to one of you, it pays off. The beneficiary on his side was his mother. Beneficiary on her side is he claims she said, oh, I want you to be the beneficiary, which is kind of odd because she does have family. I guess the sister's pissed about that if she really signed it as his. Now, do I believe that she wanted him to be the beneficiary? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say, when you sign these things, I'm not sure where they signed it. This gets a little confusing. So I heard some word boutique. So I'm like, what the heck? Where are they signing this thing? But he's used to signing these things. And all you need to do is start drinking early, And by the time you go, oh, you should sign these things. We don't want to lose it in case we just don't get on the flight. Hey, just sign this, go to your family. She may not even looked at it. I don't know if she signed it or he signed it. Who knows? But he theoretically was the beneficiary. So if she died on the trip, he would get $1.5 million. So there is a belief that he pre-planned, premeditated. This is a murder. He wasn't just taking her to the island to have fun. He planned to kill her to collect $1.5 million. And so, which is a little weird because he's never been, supposedly, now again, the reporting is dreadful. Supposedly he'd never been to Aruba before. Now he'd been there afterwards. He clearly went to Aruba, but supposedly never been there before. Now it is kind of tricky. If you're going to kill off somebody, and you're in a place you're not familiar with, it's a little bit more difficult to figure out how you're going to get away with this. Now he might have thought, well, Natalee Holloway never found her body. Police are stupid down there. I could probably get rid of her, collect $1.5 million. Is it possible? The police thought it was possible. But the other theory was he had a violent temper, and that when she emailed him and said, I love you, I'll explain everything, he just got pissed off at her. They're supposedly had some big fight in the hotel. And so who knows? What did she drown accidentally? Did he plan to have her drown? Or did he assault her and then do something with her body? Those are the three choices, okay? But here's where some of the stupid stuff starts. So in this mock trial, he is accused of, well, why did you take her down to Baby Beach, this area on the other side of the island? There were these wonderful snorkeling places on the way. Why would you take her all the way to Baby Beach? Why wouldn't she go someplace else? It's a 20-mile long island. Really? It's a 20-mile long island. It's not a big deal. You know what I mean? It's like, why wouldn't he go to Baby Beach? Baby Beach is super popular. It's pretty. So why wouldn't he go there? I mean, this is what the beach looks like. That's a pretty beach. Why not? So this whole nonsense that he went out of his way to take her to this beach on the very tip of the island. Let me show you where I showed you that map, but I also want to show you this map, which I'm going to use a little bit more later because it is important. This is Baby Beach, and it is at the very south of the island. And you can see it's right. This is where it is. It's down here. Baby Beach is here. All right. Where they ended up snorkeling was up here. Okay. Not quite Baby Beach. This is another local beach. And this is the very tip of the island. And this will all come into play later. But why not? 20 is a 20. It's a 20-mile island. And to say that he went out of his way to go to this location is stupid. Okay, that's that. I'm on Gary's side on that. He said that's just dumb. And it is dumb. So they drove down, okay, and they're at this place. This is a restaurant, and they're having lunch there. And somebody there says that this is the place. This is Rum and Reef Bar and Grill. It's right there at the Baby Beach. And they're having lunch, and somebody claims that she picked out her salad and looked kind of drowsy. So was she medicated? Whatever. And then they left the restaurant, and here she is. They are leaving now. She's in her supposedly favorite sundress. You can see she has shoes on her feet. He's got shoes on his feet. And pay attention to the word shoes. The shoe thing is so important in this case. They also said she had makeup on and her hair was done. She supposedly had a lot of extensions, and she didn't like to go in the water because it messed up her hair and makeup. Okay, so, when you're in Aruba, you kind of like to snorkel. So I don't know how true that is, but supposedly at this point in time, she's just, had lunch. Now, where are they going? Well, this is a police reenactment. So the car in front is supposedly their vehicle, all right? And they leave there, and they go to a different place. They go to this place. Now, in the mock trial, they show this place that has very rocky, and they make a big deal of this again. Well, Gary, why wouldn't you go to Baby Beach? It's gorgeous. Why would you go to this crappy looking place? Okay. It's not a crappy place. Let me explain that place to you. All right. It's called Rogers Beach. And it says here, the small beach next to Baby Beach, or kind of around the corner, if you want to put that, has calm water that is perfect for easy Aruba snorkeling. It's shallow at first, but becomes deeper further out, where you find a small coral reef. Snorkeling is similar to Baby Beach, although some people say they prefer Rogers Beach because it is more relaxed and there are more fish to see. Okay. It's not. It's the actual, if you go back here, if you go back to the this picture, right here, this is the bar they're at, okay? And then there's right about here is they have a dive shop attached to it. And if you go right over here, you're at Baby Beach. You're at the other beach, okay? The other beach. Now, let me show you some pictures of that beach, because you're seeing the rocks, and they claim there were rocks there. Okay, but I want to show you some other pictures of it. All right. Where's my pictures? Well, I'm coming up. Where'd they go? Okay, here we go. It looks like that. And it looks like this. This is where the police are looking for her body. And it looks like that. And it looks like this. So as you can see, the entire thing is in a pile of rocks. It's got some sandy stuff there too. Although when he claims when you walk into the water, there were rocks there. And she cut her toe, he said. And there are people who say that there was blood on the rocks there, but that's supposedly not necessarily true. So all that is very questionable. Now, what happened? All right. So supposedly they are at they're at this bar here, they're having their lunch, and instead of going to Baby Beach, they get in the vehicle. This is his story, and they go over here to the other beach. It's also called, I think, Nanky Beach, which is just another local name for it. But anyway, they're over at the other beach. Okay. Now, what happens at that beach? All right. Let me see if I can find where I'm at here. Okay. All right. Let me back up here a second. Okay, I want to make sure I get his statements. Okay, this is one of the stupid questions. Why did you choose a secluded area? And Gary says, it wasn't secluded. It was 100 miles from a scuba diving shop. That's not secluded. I agree with Gary. It was not overly secluded. Were there way more people at Baby Beach? Oh yeah, this is super tourist place. But if you go further over here, you get some better snorkeling, but the beaches aren't as gorgeous, right? So most people just want to lay on that beach and have a good time. And he chose to go over here because supposedly, now this is where it gets a little squirrely. The snorkeling's better over here, but she didn't supposedly want to really snorkel. So why aren't they just laying out here on the beach? The claim he makes, all right, let's see if this says it here. No, I'm going to wait on that. He says he drives the vehicle over here. He parks. They get out. He puts down some towels, and they lay down. And she falls asleep. Now, mind you, they're from 4:15 in the afternoon when they leave this place to about 6 o'clock when he re-arrives at the surf shop, knocking on doors, saying "Help, help," which is another story. But so there's almost 2 hours missing. So he says they go there, and she falls asleep in the sun. Now, they're hanging out there for quite a while. And I would assume sunbathing. So I assume she's taken that dress off and she's sunbathing. She doesn't have anything on her feet. She's taken her shoes off and she's relaxing there. Then he makes this statement. She wakes up and he goes, "Hey, you want to go back to the hotel? Or do you want to go look at the fish and feed them?" I don't know if they really had any food for the fish, but that's what he's claiming. And she says, "Yeah, let's go do that." So supposedly they put on snorkels and she goes into the water first and cuts her toe a little bit. Anyway, she goes into the water without shoes on her feet, there's rocks there, you see. He goes into the water with his shoes on his feet. Okay, Gary, I'm going to say right now, I'm thinking you're lying. So you've been sitting out in the sun on the beach with your shoes on. Really? I'm going to save you stuff. You hung out there for remember, they were missing for 2 hours. So they supposedly were on the beach for at least maybe an hour and a half before bad things happened. You're sitting for an hour and a half with your shoes on your feet in the sun. Wouldn't you just take your shoes off and wander, enjoy the sun? So he still got his shoes on his feet, according to him. And then they both go into the water. He with the shoes on his feet, she without her shoes on, and they have the snorkels on. He claims that they were only going to stand there and put their faces in the water and look at their little fishies. Okay, but I'm still going to say, dude, you got shoes on your feet. Now this guy, by the way, this guy's he has a scuba certificate. He's got fins in the car. He is capable of doing scuba and snorkel. He knows what he's doing. Now, there are water shoes that you put on your feet when you want to walk on rocks. And you're telling me this guy's going to go in his really nice tennis shoes, his probably $150, $200 tennis shoes. He's just going to walk into the ocean with them. So anyway, they walk into the ocean together. He with his shoes on for reasons completely stupid. And then she's ahead of him. And they're going to just look. But, oh my goodness, she just swims away. And he's like, no, no. So he reaches out and grabs her tries to grab her little foot. And then she looks back and he goes, let's go back to the shore because we're getting too far out. And he turns around and he swims toward the shore. Now let's see what he says here. He said the water was so choppy, he couldn't see the ocean floor. He panicked in survival mode, couldn't help anybody but himself. He claims he's swimming back, swimming, and his shoes are like, lead cement blocks on his feet, cement blocks on his feet. He can barely swim because of the heavy cement blocks. And he's trying to get back to shore before he dies. Take your shoes off, Gary. If I think I'm going to die, I'm going to reach down and pluck those little shoes right off my feet so I can swim. But no, he swims with his shoes weighing him down. And he finally gets to the shore. His heart's beating. He gets there finally. And he turns around and he thought she was following him because she didn't have shoes on her feet. And she's missing. And she's gone, completely gone. He's like, okay, so what does Gary do? She's missing. So he runs back. Well, it's a good thing he has shoes on his feet. Help him run, runs back to that surf shack. And I'll get to that in a minute. Meanwhile, the diving school said that day the sea was exceptionally calm. No waves. The police and helicopter declared water smooth enough to see sea creatures. Now, mind you, remember, one of the reasons they said this was a great place up here in Nanki Beach to look at the sea life was because how calm it was there. Also, look at the bottom part. He said he estimated the depth of the water 20 feet when he started to swim back to shore. The Coast Guard says its average depth at that location was 4 to 8 feet. Pretty much he could stand up. But he claims now it's very deep. And they couldn't get back to shore. Now, there are such things known as rip tides and rip currents. And I don't understand all the details here. But theoretically, in certain places, there can be a place where it sucks you into a channel. And theoretically, that's what he's claiming happens. Wherever they were, the wind and the current just sucked her out to sea. But he, with his shoes weighing on his feet, was able to go completely against that current and get back. And people say, well, why didn't you go after her? He's like, well, I couldn't see her anyplace. And there was no way I would go back out there because I was already exhausted. And I just died too. So what was the point? Okay, I kind of agree with that. He does have a point there. But somebody said, well, why didn't you go back and get the fins and everything that you have? And that is a better point. If he had equipment, he maybe could have done something. But no, he goes to the surf place. Now, when he gets to the surf place, let's see, here it is. Okay, so he gets back there basically to the barn grill, because the surf place is next to it, the surf shop. And he's not running, he's walking. And he's knocking. Really lackadaisically. And one of the things people notice is he doesn't seem to have a ton of water on his shoes. So, I mean, where's the footprints? Where's the water dripping off his body? He said, well, his shorts dry really quickly. I guess his toupee didn't fall off in the water. And that dried too. But he claimed later his shoes were wet. I agree. I think his shoes were wet. I just don't think they were as wet as they would have been at that moment. And I'll explain that to you in a bit. So that's his story. And now they looked for her, and they've never found her body. So he ended up, he did get arrested. They're allowed to keep him for about 4 months in prison. And so he was kept in jail. He was kept in jail. He was kept in jail for 4 months, and he claims it was the worst experience of his life, the worst jail in the world. I'm thinking not so much. But, all right, so he spent 4 months there, and then he finally was released. He didn't get the money, although he tried right away. I think it was like just before he even left the island, before he tried to leave the island, he called right up to American Express and said, hey, he starts trying to get the money. And he didn't get it. So, and it's funny because he's like, well, I've lost millions because of all the things that have happened to me. And he's trying to, survive. Well, his book didn't sell for crap, so he didn't make any money off of that. And by the way, do you wonder why he showed up on these shows? People think that people go on Dr. Phil and shows like the jury don't get paid. Well, that's not exactly true. People like me don't get paid, which is why I won't do most of those shows, because I have to fly out to California. Yes, I get a hotel room. Excitement. I've been in so many hotel rooms, I don't care. You get a hotel, miserable freaking flight. They don't give you first class. Then you get there and they want you to come in and out. Like they want you to come in the night before, do the show, and go out the next morning and go fly all the way back to the East Coast. And I already go like, no, you're going to give me at least 2 nights. I got to rest. But they don't want to pay you. And if you ask for money, they just dump you and get somebody else. I rarely do any of these shows ever anymore because first of all, I think I should be paid for my work. But they say, oh, it's publicity and we don't pay our guests. Okay. They probably paid him to do the Dr. Phil show. You know how they probably paid him? Because they make up excuses. For example, the Casey Anthony stuff, I'm going to say they bought a picture or something like that. Like, we can't pay you, but we'll pay $30,000 for that picture. I'm going to say they found something to pay him for. Not for the show, not for being on the show, but just because he had a photo of Robyn Gardner or something like that. And they paid for the photo. That's how they get around saying they don't pay for their guests. It's a big fat lie. But this show, you, the jury, check this out. Cases presented are either actual civil cases that litigants agree to dismiss and argue in our forum, or are representative of legal disputes that could have been brought in a typical civil court. Pay attention to this. Participants received compensation for appearing on the show, and the amount of potential awards for each party were predetermined. Whether you won or whether you lost, we already have set up what you're going to get for the show. I'm going to say the sister got diddly squat. She probably was told they'll pay for her hotel and food and her flight because she wants to confront him. For this dude, I'm going to say they forked out some cash because he's arrogant. He wants the money and he doesn't care really what happens after he lost. He kind of went, whatever. I don't know what they paid him. But this is what happens, and people don't realize this is what goes on. So this guy is a sleazy little, I won't say the word. Okay, now I'm going to go to your comments, and I'm going to tell you what I think actually happened. All right, to Robyn Gardner. All right. Whew. All right. The sneaker thing is absurd, says Leslie. I'm not a good swimmer. I don't even go. Yeah, who the heck wears sneakers going swimming? You do not. You might have your sneakers on if you're crossing a stream or something. But once you're going to plan to be in a place that has, you want to protect your feet, you usually use, those little swim shoe things. They're light and they protect your feet. And he's a scuba diver. He knows. He's not wearing shoes into the water. There's to go snorkeling. He claims, though, that's why he wore them in, was because he wasn't planning to really snorkel. He's only going to look in the water. But, dude, if you're going to look in the water, you think you're going to take your $200 pair of shoes in there? I don't think so. You're going to take them off your feet, and then you're going to look in the water, and then you'll put them back on your feet. Because, again, why are you sitting there for an hour and a half with those sweltering shoes on your feet in the sun? Because there's not really any shade there. So don't give me that story. It's a bunch of nonsense. Karen says, there was some question in the jury TV show that Robyn did not sign the forms at all. Her name was misspelled and her signature was very different from that on her driver's license. Yes, but honest to God, I couldn't tell. I mean, they threw it up there so quickly on the screen that I was like, yeah, okay. They actually said that that she didn't have a Y. The person had signed it ROBIN instead of ROBYN. But I looked at that and it looked like a Y to me. So I don't know. They're talking some crap. So I honestly don't know whether she signed them or she didn't. So again, this is sloppy work. It's so sloppy. I have no idea. Regardless, he ended up as beneficiary. Now, does that mean he predetermined to kill her? I personally do not think so. I think he went down there for sex, a good time, to take videos of her, whatever he was doing to her. He did a lot of sleazy things behind, she didn't even know were happening. So I think he also set up cameras where she wasn't aware. He's a sleazy creeper. That's what he is. He's a creeper. And he was going to go have himself a good time. I don't think he necessarily planned to murder her, but I do not think he had a problem signing forms that just in case something happened to her, I do get the money. All right. And once something happened to her, I'm sure he was happy to get money. Could I be wrong? Could he have planned this from the beginning? He's going to kill her? Yes, but it is a strange island to him, and it seems a little unlikely. And I'll explain what I think actually happened. Oh, is that what it was? Danny says, Gary had the exclusive video he showed on Dr. Phil. Well, there you go. That's probably worth $50,000. Let's see. If he's a snorkeler, he would know you swim parallel to the current until it releases you. He's lying. That too. When you're in a rip situation, and I'm not good at this, rip current, rip tide. Yes, you don't swim in it. You swim the perpendicular, is that the word, to it, so that you swim essentially out of it and you don't fight it. This is true. And he didn't do that. You're correct. Isn't that interesting? Linda says he's so arrogant, he actually thinks people are going to believe his absurd story. Well, he keeps trying. Nobody has believed it yet, but I think he's very confident. And I will tell you in a minute why I think he's super confident. All right. Texas Reddit says, I never get travel insurance. I may have to rethink that. Yeah, I don't do either, but you might have a point. It's probably useful to get. Anthony says, in my opinion, she was nothing more than a payout for him. Murder for profit. Maybe. But I don't know that he planned it that way. Didn't Gary, I'm going to say Gary, Giordano, say that they chose the secluded beach? Oh, yeah, I forgot this. Thank you, Walter Matilda. So Robyn could go around topless. But he also said it wasn't that secluded. And he never, this is the other interesting thing. He leaves a lot of information out of his story. He doesn't say we got to the beach and she took her top off. He doesn't say that. And he doesn't say she put her top back on to go to snorkel. He never says that at all. At least I didn't see it. Maybe he told the police that, but in his regular statements, he's never said anything about her taking her top on or off. So if that's so important, why don't we hear about that? Okay. And then there was another thing about that, about the topless thing. It's flown out of my head. His whole story. Oh, yes. When he tells his story, one of the interesting things is he tells his story very blandly, leaving out a lot of information, but he gets when he tells a part about struggling in the water, he does that very, like it's in a present tense as opposed to past tense. I'm struggling and I'm trying to get to the shore. And usually that means he's just fabricating it. And the other thing that's very important about statement analysis is that you have to look to see what in there might be true and what might be fabricated. In other words, most people, if they're fabricating something, are using some things that are real to make it seem real. In other words, if you completely fabricate a story, it's very difficult because you're making 100% fiction. But if you can take some real stuff and just add a little bit to it, then it comes off better. So I will get into the story that I think really happened and how he changed it into what he claimed. Let's see. Oh, did that really happen? He sued American Express for $3.5 million because he didn't get the money. Yeah, that would be him. He's a slime bag. He is a slime bag. Giordano doesn't just take women on vacations. He takes. That's true. Generally, a woman who knew Giordano called him Sue crazy. He's a slime bag. And this is one of the things that's tricky. It's hard to tell premeditation when you versus an opportunist. So did he premeditate or did he just see an opportunity when the opportunity was there? And he always sees an opportunity. In other words, hey, if I can sign this for you, or I can get you to sign this, good. Hey, anything goes wrong, I get the money. Or did he plan it? Or when she drowned, he goes, hey, I can collect on that money. It's hard to tell with him which way it goes. All right. So let me see here. Robyn's female friend described Robyn's and Giordano's relationship as a roller coaster friendship, and one day nice and next day not so nice. I can't tell. As I said, this is such sloppy reporting. I don't know who's telling the truth and who isn't. One person says she hardly knew him. The other person says she's known him for a year. Then somebody said she's just had an online relationship. And then somebody else said they meet each other all the time. The one says she's on just Match.com. The other one says she's on basically a sex site. I don't really care. I just know that she made an unfortunate choice, and I think he's guilty. Okay, let me get to what I think happened. All right. Let's go to, they left the restaurant because that's the last known sighting of them. And this is extremely important, in my opinion. Okay, here they are leaving the restaurant. They're walking away. Both have shoes on their feet. She has a dress on, makeup, hair, all nicely done. He's got his regular outfit on. I'm not even sure those are swim trunks. They just look like shorts. All right. Now, let's go to the issue of where they went when they left the restaurant. There's a 2-hour missing time frame here. Okay. So I'm going to put this up. Now, they're only 20 minutes from the hotel. They could have just gone back to the hotel, but they didn't. He claims they left here and he went over here to this beach where they spent almost 2 hours in the broiling sun. And he kept his shoes on. But his vehicle was seen by somebody, and again, this is not proven, by somebody not going this direction, but going this direction. Okay. Now, do you see this direction? If you take a look here, you see all of this here. This is an area which is very, very, the waves are very big. And Giordano keeps saying how 2 people drowned over here. Okay. 2 people drowned. So, why couldn't she drown too? Why are you saying why are you saying she didn't drown when 2 people drowned in the Baby Beach area? Well, they did drown when they went to Baby Beach, but it's because they went out of the area. If over here they have an area here where they went past the seawall or whatever they had there, and they went outside where there are strong currents. They shouldn't have gone out that far, and they did die. Okay. Their bodies were both found. Now, so there's somebody thought they saw him going what they called the opposite direction. Instead of going this way, saw the vehicle going. Now, the opposite direction can mean one of 2 things: down here to this point, or it can mean going out this way down to this point. Now, mind you, it looks long on the map, but we're talking about, this is like a 5-minute drive. Okay. Both these, if he left and went this way to this area, or he went out to here and went down to this area, it's basically the same thing. It's very short period. It's a very short drive. I think that is actually correct. I do not believe they went straight to that beach and hung out there for 2 hours in those conditions, the way he's claiming. I think that they were having issues. He took her someplace, either here with a vehicle and stopped, or the other direction down to here, this whole point area, and stopped. Now, what happened then? Well, I think she never got out of the vehicle alive. I think that was either where the argument started, because he gets very violent and very angry, and he's strangled before. He's choked people before. I think he choked her. I think he choked her out, and she died in the vehicle. Now, would that be premeditated, that he planned to collect on the insurance thing, or did he just get very angry and kill her? I can't prove one or the other, but I personally think it's more likely that he has that volatile personality and he got angry with her and he killed her. And now he's got a problem. He's got a dead woman in his vehicle. What does he do with her? Well, in the area, both areas I've shown, down this way where you see all the waves. And over here, this is the point of the south point of Aruba. Okay, let me show you Aruba again, just so you can get a feeling of what it looked like. Okay, here's Aruba. So it's out, we're down, the Baby Beach is right at the very, very end, okay? Very, very end. And it has some interesting formations of rocks down there. Let me show you some of them. Here's some of the rocks toward that area. Here's some more of the rocks toward that area. Here's a cool bridge. We see how violent the waves are down there. It's right on the tip. And not get to that one. So these are some of the scenes from there, from that area. You see how much. So you got a dead girl in your car, and you need to get rid of her. What are you going to do? Well, usually what you're going to do is dump her in the water. So you want to make sure it looks like she drowned. Well, you take her dress off. When she's probably, I don't know if she's wearing I would assume she's wearing her bathing suit underneath, because you tend to do that. You wear a bathing suit, you throw your sundress over. At least I do when I'm in a place like that. I can't prove that's what she had underneath, but that would be my guess, because you're going out for the day, you never know. And when you're on an island, right? So you wear your bathing suit and a sundress. Takes the sundress off, takes that snorkel, sticks it on her face, picks up her body, and goes to any one of these locations, walks there carrying her where nobody's around, nobody sees, and dumps her into the water. Now, is it possible that he walked into the water? And I tend to think the answer to that is yes. I tend to think somewhere along the way, wherever he was, maybe more like this, he went and dumped her in the water, but he walked into the water. And that's why his shoes would be wet. And that's why his memory is, I had shoes on my feet. Now, if he was walking into the water and trying to chuck her body there and make sure she goes away, he might be in that water for quite a while. Maybe the waves are strong and he does remember, Jesus, what am I doing in the water with my shoes on? And he has to get back in it. And he's also tired from carrying her body and all this kind of thing. So he remembers the exhaustion. He remembers, oh my gosh, I got to get back. And then he turns around and looks back and she's gone. He's like, okay, I've done it. I've gotten rid of her. Now, the problem would be, once he's done that, what's his explanation, okay, of where she went to? Well, you don't want to say, we went to the cliffs and she fell off. That always doesn't look good. I mean, people have gotten away with that before, but he's thinking, she looks like she went snorkeling and whatever. But where I was at was not really a good snorkeling location. Let me get back in the car. Let me drive around to this place over here, put out the towels, and then pretend she went in the water and drowned. And then he runs back to the place and goes, knock, knock, help, call 911 or whatever it is in Aruba. My girlfriend's just disappeared into the ocean. We were snorkeling and she drowned. Now, one of the advantages to saying you were over here as opposed to being over here or way over here is that the emergency team is not going to look in this place or this place. They're going to be looking up here. That's where the helicopter is going to be going. That's what people are going to be searching. And they didn't see anything. Well, probably because she wasn't there. Now, the question one has is, most people who go into the water do end up, they find their bodies. They wash up on the beach, on the rocks. Eventually they come to the surface if they went under, unless the sharks ate them. Most of them, about 16%, 15 or 16% are never found. Why are they never found? Well, you remember that young man who just jumped off the party boat? His body's never been found. Everybody saw him go into the water. He's never been found. Where is he? He's in the Bahamas somewhere under the water. Did the sharks get him, or did he just drown and his body just sunk someplace? Who knows? But they've never found his body. So sometimes the bodies aren't found. Now, sometimes people can help that body not be found by placing something heavy around their body. Now, I don't know what he had in that vehicle. I don't know if there was anything missing from that vehicle, like something like something you'd use maybe to fix your tire. All kinds of things, that heavy objects that could be in the back of the vehicle that you could use, tie around her and dump her and hope it sinks her. Possible. Or is that too much work? It's hard to say. I don't know what the police found when they went to the car and said, no, everything's here. I don't see anything missing. Everything's, that came with the car is still with the car. It's a rental car. So is anything missing or not? I never heard from the police about that. So maybe that seems, the police think it's possible he did attach something heavy to her, so that she would sink and not be found. But then again, maybe just got lucky, because there are certain types of the way these currents go. It is possible that the current was such in that location that it just took her out to sea further than they ever found her. It's possible. But what's interesting, the reason I think she drowned, now mind you, the police have looked elsewhere. See this point down here? All right. Then in the south area, there are some stories. The police went there and they checked. I'm sorry. There it is. There's like, here we had a phosphate mine. They thought maybe he dumped her down this mine. This is near Baby Beach, again, on that south part. Maybe dumped her down there, but nothing belonged to the missing woman there. Some crazy story came out that there was a dog cemetery nearby, and that he dug with his hands and he took the dog out and then put her alive in there and put the dog on top of her and covered it up again. I'm going to say that's nonsense. No, remember, he's new to the island. He doesn't know where things are. The only thing he does know is the water is there. And a snorkeling accident is not something that's unreasonable to happen. So if he strangled her or smothered her, did something to her, choked her out, he thinks, if it looks like a snorkeling accident, maybe they'll never figure out that that's not what happened. Now, mind you, if they find her body, the question will be, is there water in her lungs? Is there a highway bone broken? I mean, there are all kinds of things that could prove it wasn't a snorkeling accident. But then again, it all depends on how long she's in the sea. And if there's he might be praying for some sharks to come along and chop her up, whatever. That might get him off the hook. But the reason I think it may have happened is he is smug as all get out. He is very smug. And I think if she were on the island someplace, he would be worried that she would eventually be found. I don't think his body has never been found. It's been a long, long, long time, over a decade, never been found. He knows they can never prove he did anything to her. He says it's a snorkeling accident. She drowned, and there's nothing anybody can do to prove otherwise. And I think he's confident that she's in the ocean. And how would he be confident that she's in the ocean? There's only two ways. His snorkeling story is true, that he went to Nanki Beach up here. They went in the water. She drifted away. He couldn't save her. And that's that. He's telling the truth. He's a jerk. He's a slime ball. He's everything anybody wants to call him. But it really happened that way. It was an accidental death. Or he dumped her into the water from one of these areas, and her body's never been found. And he staged this whole fake snorkeling thing over there because it would look better over here, right? That obviously if he's up here and she goes off a cliff, it doesn't look good. And there's no snorkeling area here. So to go back over here and lay your towels down and pretend you were snorkeling, that's much smarter. And that's called staging. I think he knows her body's never been found because it's in the ocean. It's going to be an accidental death or it's going to be homicide. And everything he said and done and his whole story, the wet shoes, my opinion, all the evidence supports homicide, 100%. And I think he chucked her into the water himself. So let me go to some of your comments. Linda says, maybe a crime of opportunity came along and he decided to take advantage of it. And yes, here's an interesting thing that does happen, Linda. He could have, you can have an idea that wouldn't it be nice if she accidentally died. And then you accidentally kill her and you think, well, then I might as well collect. Or you're at this point where you're furious with her. you're in the vehicle, you're pissed off at her, and you say, I always get these insurance policies out and they never pay off, but this time that sucker's going to pay off. Yes, possible. And when one looks at premeditation, it can be when he signed the document. He could have planned it before the trip. He could have gotten the idea when it was time to get the traveling insurance. Or it could be he got the idea 5 minutes before he actually choked her out because he was pissed off at her. Or he could have never thought of it, and when she was dead, he thought he might as well collect. We will never get inside the mind of a person. People want this absoluteness. You can't do it. And we ourselves, when somebody says, why did you do this? I don't know. And the reality is we had maybe 2 or 3 different possible reasons, and maybe they're all mixed up together. And so we sort of thought this way, then we sort of thought that we end up doing this. We can't even figure it out for ourselves. Oh yes, we read that one. Let me go down further. Okay. It is also possible Robyn really did get trouble in the water. Maybe they had a fight, and in the heat of the moment, he didn't care that she was being swept away or was drowning. Yeah, except the water was really shallow, and he had his shoes on. I don't buy the whole story. As I say, I don't believe that he went there, sat on a beach in the sweltering sun with his shoes on for as long as he supposedly did. And then they chose to go in. Ruin his, something went wrong with my internet. It just went out and back. Something was wrong with the shoes. I mean, he would ruin his shoes in the water instead of taking them off before they go in. None of his story is garbage. His story is stupid and it's garbage. So I know the story is made up, most of it. So I think he more likely put her in the water over here, and he had to take off the dress and put on the snorkel and chuck her in. And then he went and staged it over here because this wouldn't work for an excuse. And that's why half of it is sort of true and half of it is not. And I think his whole thing about how much work it was, he wasn't explaining how much work it was to get back to shore, but more how much work it was to carry her body, get it in the water, make sure it went out, and he had to get back. And that's why he didn't take his shoes off. Especially down here, it's very rocky. You're not going to take your shoes off. So his story's garbage. What I've learned, if you want to get away with murder, hire Jose Baez. Yeah, he's another piece of work. He is. Let's see. Did anything of Robyn's ever wash up on shore? No dive gear, no shoes, no clothing. No, nothing ever did. And that's one of the reasons some people think she was buried someplace. But he doesn't have any equipment to bury her within that 2-hour period of time. He's not going to know where. The dog grave story is just kind of ridiculous. And they went out there and they, no, I just don't think so. I think now supposedly some of her stuff was actually on the beach and they gave it back to him, which is kind of stupid, in my opinion. And then he didn't dispose of it. He makes a big deal, and so does Jose Baez, that if he was guilty, he would have gotten rid of all these things. No, because those things were never involved in the crime. If he just killed her in the vehicle and dumped her, the towels had nothing to do with the crime. Her dress was just taken off her body. So you go and put out some towels and put her dress there. I don't even know what was there. They didn't explain it. But there's nothing there to worry about. So hey, what are you going to do? All of a sudden get rid of it and look like you're trying to hide stuff? No. I mean, no. Tikkun says they may play a tight budget tune, a profit-based core private network acting like PBS. No, they're liars. Those people have so freaking much money. They just don't like to pay anybody because they don't have to. Most of the people who appear on television, essentially they're told they're just getting publicity. It's almost like slave labor. Yeah, they don't pay people. And then everybody makes money except the people who are in front of the camera. It's amazing. Unless you're famous, then you get money. There were restraining orders against Gary. Yes, there was. One claimed he choked her and shoved his fingers down her throat. Yeah, I've mentioned that before, but absolutely. And usually when you have somebody who has a tendency towards something, that's what they tend to do again. I believe his hands went through her throat. That's what I would believe. Let's say, Linda says, excellent case analysis, and this jackass is going to get away with it. No, he already got away with it. At this point, let's say they find her body. What are they going to prove? Let's say he did. Some people think he drugged her food, and that's drugged her before he went there. Like he was carrying his own, you make up little drinks and cups, and you have a little cup in the car and you pour a little something in it. Hey, you have a little rum drink, and then you put in something that makes her go to sleep, and then she's kind of groggy, and then I don't know if there's any truth in that at all. But even if let's say there was something went into her body, she'd been in the sea for what, a decade? I'm sure by that time she's probably been, munched on, and her body is no longer in existence. Let's see. Gary said he last saw Robyn around 4:15, but he didn't tell anyone she was missing until 6. That's not what I thought. No, maybe I misread this. I thought at 4:15 was the last time anybody else saw Gary and Robyn. That they were leaving the restaurant, and then they went to the beach, and then she sunbathed and all that stuff, and then she drowned, and then he ran and got help, and that's when he showed up at 6 p.m. Gary said if she cut her toe, which tells me she was bleeding going into the water, that would attract sharks. In theory, I don't even know, but the cut to toe thing is really weird. There was a claim that there was some rocks here that had her blood on it, but then they said that wasn't true. So again, we have sloppy reporting. I don't know who's telling the truth on any of this. Cut her toe. Well, maybe there was blood in the water wherever he dumped her. Maybe, I'm not quite sure. He supposedly had a scratch on his neck and was very odd acting, but hard to say. If he had his fins in his car, maybe he had his oxygen tanks. Well, I haven't heard of anything like that. Now, theoretically, that would be kind of interesting, where he could really take her far out or something. Or maybe he could use the oxygen tanks to weigh her down. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Without the oxygen in them, I don't know. Without the oxygen in them, then wouldn't they just sink? I mean, I don't know crap about this. But yeah, he could have weighted her down with oxygen tanks if he had those. I don't know that he was actually scuba diving out there. He was a certified scuba guy, but doesn't mean he was scuba diving. He might, if he's just going on vacation, maybe just he wanted to drink, party, have sex, and snorkel. And that was basically what he was going to do. He did have the fins in the car. So the only thing I've heard about is the fins. If he had more equipment, that would be interesting, because if he had it, where did it go? So fascinating. Gary approached 3 witnesses on August 2nd asking for help. One stated he was not searching for Robyn and he had a scratch on his neck. Correct. Another observed a cut on Giordano's right shin. That's what we've heard. Again, this is one of the big problems being outside the crime investigation. Unless I get to talk to those guys, I don't know if they're telling the truth or they're not. I have not a clue. Even the guy who said he saw the vehicle going the opposite direction than Naki Beach, I don't know if he's telling the truth either. I don't know if he saw the right vehicle. I don't. All I know is that this beach thing sounds staged to me, and it makes much more sense that he would have chucked her body off in a more remote place that he was hoping. And again, I don't know the current thing. Now, mind you, if I didn't think about this, he's a scuba diver. He may have more knowledge of how currents work, because although 85 or 84% of people show up again who drown, and of course, we're usually talking about situations where they aren't very far out. Is there something in the currents at the end of this island that would, if he dumped her here, that she would go this way and not back toward the land? Maybe he knows this if he's a scuba diver, or maybe he just got lucky. Maybe it's just a jerk who got lucky. But my opinion is she definitely drowned in the water. Well, let me take that back. She definitely ended up in the water. Whether she was dead before she went or died afterwards, she went in the water. I don't believe she's any place on that island. I think she went in the water, and he's got his little eating grin because he knows no matter what he says, no one can ever prove he did anything at this point, because he knows she's in the water. That's where she went in, and her body's never going to be found. So, yeah, we'd all like to know things, but they've never said anything. So, pathological liars mix a little truth in with a lie, so it's more believable. That is correct. So, yes, that is the way people always do when they're trying to lie. Even come up with a name, for example. If I wanted to come up right now and say, somebody said, "What's your name?" and I don't want to say Pat, I might go Robyn or Matilda because I see her name there, or Linda because I see her name there. I can't. It's hard to just come up with a name that you don't know and you don't see. A lot of times people say, "Where have you been?" They will look up and go, "Giant food store," whatever. They grab things. And then they create a story around that. The little bits of information they will then weave together. So he had to come up with a story for the shoes. His shoes were wet. Now, what excuse does he have for that? So that's why I don't believe he chucked her off a cliff, because if he chucked her off a cliff, his shoes would be dry. I believe he did wade into the water and dump her. Maybe the waves splashed upon him and all that stuff. And I don't know when it happened too. He's missing for 2 hours. It may be that this all happened in the first 30 minutes and he had an hour and a half to dry a little bit. So the top of him was dry, drive the vehicle to the other location, put down the towels and all that. Yeah. And then go running off. But nobody saw him at this beach. Nobody ever saw him here. They only saw him when he came back to the surf shop and started knocking. And nobody obviously saw him this direction either, or this direction. So the last place he was seen and his vehicle was absolutely seen was at the restaurant. And then the one guy said the vehicle went the wrong direction and didn't go toward this way. That's the last we know. But after that, nobody saw them. So either he just got maybe incredibly lucky, incredibly lucky. Hi, Joe. Good point about not knowing why we do things. We often look for definitive answers where there are none. That is true. I mean, if we can't come up with it for ourselves in certain situations, we are going to have a hard time figuring out why somebody else would do that. I'm trying to think sometimes of some of my trips where I've ended up in certain locations and think, why did I end up there? It could be anything. It could be, let's say I'm standing at a bus station in, I don't know, Guatemala. And I've told my family I'm going to a certain place. Actually, this did kind of happen. I was with my husband at the time. We were in Guatemala. And our plan was to go to this particular area of Guatemala. And we were literally ready to go there. And somebody said, "Oh, don't go there. There's a whole bunch of trouble there right now. And it's a very dangerous place at the moment." So we looked at each other and went, "Okay, we'll go here." We just changed directions just like that. So then the parents say, let's say we disappear. And then the family goes, "Oh my God, they were going to this location. Why did they end up at the other location? What could have happened?" And then, and it could be, and then people try to figure out this big story when it was that we ran into somebody who suggested it was too dangerous. And we thought, well, we'll try the other place then. It wasn't that big a deal. Or why did that person jump off the bus at that location? Maybe they got hungry. Maybe they were taking a bus from A to B and they thought it was going to get there quicker, but there were a lot of stops. And then they saw this place with a lot of restaurants, like really little yummy places to eat. And they said, "Oh, heck with it. I'll just catch the next bus out of here because it's a general route and it only cost me $1." And they jump out and they have a little lunch there and then they jump back on another bus. And somebody will make a big deal out of that. Why did you do that? I was hungry. It can be that simple. Karen's, Robyn may already have been out of her dress. Oh, for doing the naughty in the car? It's possible. I mean, yeah, who knows, Karen says you always name your estate as a beneficiary when signing your documents. It keeps everything in the house and away from people like Gary. Well, you should stay away from people like Gary to begin with. Again, I just say to everybody, unless this is a person you trust, don't go with them. But that's how people sometimes make money or get a free trip. Here Kelly says they were humping. He choked her out and killed her in the vehicle. Well, they could have been having sex, and he could be one of those, guys that likes to choke women during sex. It's possible. Or she refused him. Maybe there was something he wanted to do and she didn't feel like doing it. Maybe they already had supposedly a big fight in the hotel. And she supposedly had sent this email saying to the boyfriend, I love you, and I'm going to explain everything when I get back. Maybe that pissed him off. He got a big fat ego, and she's what? Who knows? Again, who knows? No clue. Yeah, the mother went down, and there was a PI on the fake trial show that gave information. So yes, I think they had somebody involved in that. Yeah, the currents I'm seeing in those photos look pretty scary, but I don't know what they actually mean, because a current can pull you out, but it can also push you back. So the fact that they find most people that disappear into the water, again, when people drown, a lot of times they said a lot of people actually had clothing on, so they just did some stupid stuff, and so it might be very easy to find them near the shore, and other people, they might be surfing, get hit by the surfboard and die, and there's people right there, and they're coming in on the wave, and so there's a lot of reasons you'll die, and your body will be found quickly. I looked and looked to see if there's an explanation for why. What happened to these other bunch of people? Why weren't their bodies found? And I never could find any information on that. Obviously, if you're in a boat, like a cruise ship, and you fall off the cruise ship in the middle of nowhere in the ocean, they're never going to find your body, because you fall off and the cruise ship is long gone, and then you just get eaten up by animals. So you're never going to be found. But this is off the shore, so usually bodies are brought back in. And maybe he thought that was going to happen. He probably thought he wanted to get the heck off the island, mind you. He got on the plane. He was getting off the island, and the police came and pulled him back off the plane. So I'm thinking he was afraid her body would be discovered, because sometimes what happens is you can't find the body in the first 12 hours, but then the body comes to the surface, or finally the body is found on a certain area. It's caught up on a rock, and 24 hours later, 48 hours later, they find the body. And he probably wanted to be out of Dodge by then, just in case when they found the body, they did the autopsy there and said, I think she was dead before she went in the water. And then he would actually be charged with homicide. He wanted out. He didn't get out, but I'm sure every one of those 4 months he spent in the jail down there, he was counting the days that her body wouldn't be found. Because, yeah, I'm pretty sure she went into the water, but not of her own will, under her own willpower. Let's say, Linda says, I'm curious to know if he has not been found guilty or even indicted for this murder. How can the insurance company refuse to pay him? Well, there's an interesting thing. I don't understand how insurance works, so I'm not the right person to ask that. On the other, it really hasn't been proven she's dead yet either, though. You know what I'm saying? Because, of course, she could be off in the sex trade someplace in South America. She's in Colombia right now. I don't know how all that crap works. It's insurance companies. I don't trust them no matter what. Oh, that's a good question, Molly. Cell tower pings. That would help. He claims on one of those shows that the cell phones proved his and Robyn's cell phones proved that they were at that beach and never left, that they went straight there, stayed there, and then he came back. He makes that claim, but I don't have any evidence of that. And this is, again, one of the frustrating things. I don't have a police report that says that the phones, whatever. I don't have no evidence. I haven't got a clue. I also don't know when we're talking about cell towers down here in this area. Are we talking about, it doesn't matter whether you were here or whether you were here or whether you were over here? Because this is a whole area. Does it matter where you are? Or is your phone going to be the same no matter where? So, Gary lies like a dog. You know what I mean? He lies all the time. He makes up stuff. So just because he says, oh, our cell phones are proven to be in this area, we don't know that. There's absolutely zero proof as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know. I honestly don't. I wish I did. What would make him so mad to choke her? Apparently he's got a very quick fuse, and he doesn't like women to disagree with him or to refuse him or to. Let me see how do I have to say this? He exhibits the traits of a psychopath. Not saying he is one, but he exhibits those traits. And also the traits of a domestic abuser. Okay. Well, that's a good question. Again, I personally don't think this was premeditated. I don't. I think he got pissed off and killed her. I do. And then he just tried to collect. So, yeah. I don't know how insurance works in this particular situation. Like, it was 7 years before you can declare somebody dead. Should her body have been found, that would, in that case, I would think that it's much better just to shove her head underwater, because even though sometimes sometimes you can prove a person has been held under the water, but sometimes you can't. Okay. It's hard to prove, depending on how the person is held under the water, what is used to hold them under the water. I know, for example, that when I was a teenager, I was in Ocean City, Maryland, and I was swimming around in the waves, and this guy came. He was on one of those, on a raft, and he came over my head and he knocked me down, and I went in all the way into shore underneath that raft. And it was terrifying. And then I finally scraped onto the sand, and I reared up like a bear. I actually chucked the guy off. And oddly enough, I don't know how I got lucky enough not to have taken a breath of air before I went down, because he came up choking. So, but you could take a raft, for example, you say you want plastic, blow up things. You could go in the water with her and then put it over her and hold her down under, and that would protect from some bruising. There's the old grab the person by the feet thing, where they go under the water, and because their feet are up, they can't get their head up above the water. There's just different ways, Some will leave bruising, and then you got a problem because it looks like you killed them. But if he found a way just to drown her in the water, it would be more useful, because then they would have had a body. She would have died by drowning in natural causes. As I say, premeditation, personally, in spite of that stupid insurance policy, I think he lost his temper, and I think he killed her in a rage, and then just tried to collect. But I think she was dead before she went into the water. That's what my theory is on it. Kelly says, speaking of psychopaths, the scariest looking man I've ever seen is Alex Murdaugh. I can never pronounce his name either. Yeah, well, this is the problem. We often think people look scary, because people are saying that now about Rex Herman. Oh my God, he's the coldest looking creature in the world. Everybody says that after the fact. They don't say that before the fact, because you already have had drilled into your head the person's a killer. And once you think the person's a killer, you look for that. So they wouldn't probably be as successful in life if they had that affect all the time, where everybody thought they were, oh my God, I can't be around that guy. He's like a snake. Although I have been around some psychopaths who do exhibit the snake quality and that cold, dead eye thing, that all of a sudden they look at you and they're just, I have seen it, but I just don't know that sometimes that, when we're looking at videos or photos, we're seeing things correctly. So I'm always a little bit skeptical on that. But anyway, yeah, that is my best theory on this case. That to me matches his phony story and makes much more sense. So I believe that he drove away, he killed her either here or he killed her down here. So it will be, there's a little place here. That's a very short trip right here. This is not much longer. So yeah, you might have to drive 10 minutes. And the police do think that she might well have been thrown into the water, weighted down. They do believe that. They have checked these other possibilities, but come up with nothing. So I think their number one belief is also she's in the water. And I say this whole thing, I think, was staged after the fact. And I think it was was not a stupid thing, but dude, take your shoes off. He would have been more believable to run back to the shop with his shoes off his feet, but maybe he had to come up with a reason they were wet. Maybe because he did have trying to pull her body, carry her body into the water, or dragging her body into the water, which may also be true. If he was taking her over rocks, she might have gotten heavy, and he might have, hit her on some rocks along the way, and his shoes got wet while he dragged her in. And maybe he did get caught up in some of those waves because he was trying to get her into a place was not so peaceful, right? It wasn't the kind of place you want to go snorkeling. It's the place you don't want to go snorkeling, but maybe he did get caught up in the waves and freak out and almost drowned himself. It's possible. So Matilda says, on TV, Gary seemed more concerned about how everything is impacting his sons rather than how Robyn's family and loved ones are suffering. Well, he did in some of these things. He goes, I really felt sorry. But then, he tried to put out his little sad thing. I feel sorry for your loss thing. He did. But, in his opinion, it's her fault. If she drowned because she was stupidly went out too far, well, then it's her fault, isn't it? Why should he feel? Why? In a sense, if she truly did drown like that, it isn't his fault, is it? It really is her fault. And then he's have no reason. He could feel. I think he once said that he felt bad that he went to Aruba. Just the concept that, well, I wish I hadn't gone to the beach. You know what I mean? And then maybe this wouldn't have happened. But that's all there would be to it. If she truly drowned accidentally, I don't think he should have any guilt. Why should he? It's her fault. But if she didn't drown accidentally, he still thinks it isn't his fault. She probably made him do it, She made him mad or whatever, But there is this. This is a statement from the police down there. The suspect is Gary Vincent Giordano. Giordano is accused of murder. The case is still open, but it is cold. So they have accused him. They just haven't charged him, and they couldn't keep him more than the 4-month period of time. It's a cold case, and it's going to stay that way. Unless he does a Joran van der Sloot. Now, Joran van der Sloot has never been charged in Natalee Holloway's case, but then he went ahead and killed another woman, and he's in prison for that murder. And by being in prison for that murder, you can pretty much know that he also killed Natalee Holloway, right? So if this guy screws up and kills another woman, well, then it's probably pretty obvious. But I think it's pretty obvious anyway. Gary, if you're listening, you may send me your book, okay? Because I can't find your book anyplace, so I can't read all those FBI reports and all the cherry picking stuff you put in there. I'd like to read it. I was trying to give you a fair shake, but I got to see you instead on 2 different shows, and you didn't impress me on either one of those shows as being innocent. So if you'd like to send me the book, please do. But send me an email first so I can tell you where to send it. All right. I don't think I'm going to see that book. Okay. Thank you very much for another great show. Have a great birthday. Oh, thank you. Yes, it is. And my birthday is tomorrow. Yes, I get to be 68. Whee! But my early birthday present was that I hit 30,000 subscribers, which was great because as I always point out, the channel has to survive, and you can't survive if you don't have some level of income to keep working full-time on the channel. So I was very, very thrilled to at least reach that point at 30,000. So I can keep going. I can keep going for another year and seeing how it goes, and do all the things I'd like to do on the channel. So that was my early birthday present. So I was happy about that. So, and thank you, and thank you, thank you. So, and if you want to know what I'm doing tomorrow for my birthday, I haven't a clue. I have no plans whatsoever. I really don't. So maybe I'll just lay around and be a slob. Oh, thank you, Kelly. Oh, your favorite person on YouTube. I appreciate that. Oh, I like it. All right. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to be back this week with a hangout sometime during the week. And next week, I may be doing a mother-daughter trip. We might be leaving on Friday, coming back on Sunday. So I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to do a late Sunday show or move the show to a Monday night. I can't quite figure that out. So thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. So I'm glad you're here. And Gary, I'm glad you're not. And Giordano, not Giordelli. Oh my God. I couldn't say Gardner either. I kept saying Garner. It's like, I have just two different words in my head that just wouldn't go away. I didn't, it's funny because unfortunately I didn't have the words in front of me, and then I blanked. I'm like, what is that guy's name? And then well, that's how I do my shows. Things happen. So anyway, I will see you next time. And I'll be looking forward to everybody's comments in below when the show goes public. Do tell me whether you think Gary is innocent of all wrongdoing, or whether Robyn really didn't drown by her own foolishness, shall we say. See you next time.